It's been a while since I've made a tutorial, and this is how you can retouch any color skin. It seems photographers, no matter what level, sometimes have difficulty retouching skin when it isn't what they're used to shooting. So consider this a retouching guide for skin tones that aren't your fair, light-skinned models. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think much like tattoo artists knowing how to tattoo different skin, it's important that we as photographers know how to portray people properly. Because even the highest photographers out there, the highest paid, the highest quality, the most notorious photographers out there still sometimes have issue with this. And it's not difficult, and it shouldn't be difficult, to make somebody's skin look good. First things first, I'm just gonna do a quick frequency separation. This is just gonna serve to smooth out the skin and just give it an overall, smooth out the tones, smooth out the color, smooth out the texture, just make it look a little more flattering. I do this with pretty much all of my images, and this is a industry standard retouching technique. Throw some Gaussian blur on the color layer there, and this is just gonna smooth out the color. Give that a couple hits, and then we can go across the face. And I'm just selecting zones that are pretty similar in their overall color tone, so that way they're just blended out a little bit more. And then if there's any blemishes or anything weird, I'll just clean that up like this a little. I think that's a sparkle up there. So I'll just take that out too. Now for how I actually lit this image, I just used my Aperture Lantern softbox, full review to that up here. And it was a simple one light setup. This was during a sort of golden hour light. So we're getting beautiful light on the model's face here. That sort of side to back light really led to a nice look here. And the ambient light was fine. I just gave her a little extra kick with that light to just fill in her face a little bit better and make her pop more. And sometimes different skin tones take a little more light to make them pop in that way, and that's totally fine because you have the light and you do it and it's no big ish. We can dodge and burn the face a little bit. I like using a bright and a dark curves layer just to add some overall dimension to the face and sculpt it a little bit more. Your highlight is the same as your dodge, your contour is the same as your burn layers. Now we can see skin tone wise, we're getting some golden skin tones, we're getting some more bluey skin tones, and that's fine. We can even all of that out as well. And you can see still, I'm just doing what I would usually do here and go across the highlight and the natural shadow points of the face. So the cheekbones, the bridge of the nose, the eyebrows, all of that, just to emphasize it a little bit more and make it pop. And I don't want to go too crazy on the skin retouching just to keep her actual skin tone intact. And I find sometimes when working with different skin tones, you can make them look a little gray or a little green or something weird like that. And in fact, I want to warm up her skin a little bit here. So all I'm gonna do is add in some yellow and some red. That'll also take away the blue and the cyan, so that way those bluey tones that she did have aren't going to be as apparent, and it'll look more like a natural golden glow on her face. And then we just get a little of that blue coming in from the background there, which actually lends pretty well. And the gold also works with the gold earrings. We can see that just makes it just warms it up a little bit. It just makes it feel a little better. And they make that a little contrastier, bring up the whites a bit, but I think that lends to a nice look too. It's just about dialing in a lot of the tones. And one thing that I might do is I may even come over here into the shadows and introduce like a purpley color, because a lot of times I find what I like doing is putting a green undertone in some images, almost that like teal orange vibe, the teal being in the shadows. And with some skin tones this can work well, it can add a nice balance to it. But for darker skin tones, those are going to be more affected by those undertones. So if you put a lot of green in the shadows, or you put, like a greeny yellow, it's going to create a weird look that's going to kind of desaturate their face a bit, and it's just gonna make them look a little sickly, and that's not what we want here. We want people to look good. So what I'm doing is I'm introducing some purple, so we still get a nice look in the shadows, and that looks great, but I'm gonna bring the opacity down so it's more natural. You can see at about 46%, you're still seeing it there, and actually it takes out some of the green that's in there too, which works pretty well. And then if I want to introduce a little bit more warmth into the highlights, then I can do that as well. I can come here to our original color balance layer, go in the highlights. I want to up the yellows a bit more, up the reds, and maybe because I did that, I'll drop the opacity down a little bit too. And that will affect more areas of the face, of the skin tones, so you're getting the midtones and the highlights of the face. And we can see it actually leads to a lot more elegant of a look than what we started with. Her face is in more of that green, bluey tone, and it is a little bit desaturated, but we can see by adding in that warmth, that's how we're really getting a nice golden skin texture here that looks really nice. And even if I want to, I can highlight more areas here to really bring that out. So I can come along the cheekbone, and I can come even hit a bit of the ear. So you get some of that attention in there with the earring, and I can come up here to the forehead, round that out a little bit. And then if I want to contour certain areas, like contouring the hairline, darkening that down a little bit, adding more dimension to it, then we can add that in there as well. We can even, something that I'll do is often add a little bit of a shadow to the crease of the eyelid because it offers more dimension there. Sade, the model here, did an amazing job with the makeup. She's a makeup artist as well, so make sure to check her out. Links will be in the description. Absolutely killed this look, worked great for this shot, and she's just a great model overall. And what we're getting here is a great natural skin tone that's just really quite flattering. Now, as we're going, something I might do in addition to the skin retouching we've done is I'll take the clone brush and I'll just go and hit any of these little areas that I'm seeing that just distract me. And that's really what I'm trying to do here, is narrow down on distractions and keep things looking nice and natural. So I'm not gonna go anything crazy. I'm just looking for things that draw my eye away from her eyes. Essentially, we want to be focusing on her eyes, so that's mainly what I'm focusing on here. And then to get those other tones in the face, I may even up the vibrance a little bit, just to really have those come through. Because if I do the saturation, it's a lot, but the vibrance just adds a nice little pop to things. And maybe I'll even go into my hue, saturation, and luminance and find that magenta of her lip and make that a little more pronounced. So it might be a little more into the reds. And we can see it there that I'm starting to isolate it. So I'll pull that back a bit. Okay, and that's where we're getting that. So I'll pump the saturation of that up a little bit, and I'll just mask that just to the lips, just to make those pop out a little more as well. They're a little subtle, I think, in the initial edit there. So we'll just add in a little more saturation, make them pop a little bit more. And then if I want, I can add some contrast to those too, but we'll see how that's looking. Yeah, and we can see that just helps them pop out a little bit more, maybe drop the opacity there. And we're honestly getting a great look here. Like if we look at a before and after of what we had to where we are, it's a bunch of little changes in color and in light and minor retouching, but it offers a really, really great look. And if I really want to, just to create a bit of a glow of things, up that a little bit, make it a little red and a little yellow. What I'm going to do here is turn that into like a radial gradient that just gives a nice little, just a nice little haze across the face there. Dim that down a little bit more. I think that leads to a really nice look, and I'm really happy with how that photo turned out. This is how you can go about making any skin tone look great, because the darker the skin tone, the more the shadows are going to influence it. The brighter the skin tone, the more the highlights are going to influence it. So look at where your skin tone is in your range and think about the color that you're adding in there. Don't add too much green to darker tones that are going to show up in the skin like that, because it will end up looking a little bit off. But also don't add too much, you know, red or yellow into really fair tones, and then you're going to make somebody look sunburned. So it's all an even balance that you have to figure out as you play around with different skin tones. And if you're photographing somebody with darker skin, this is how you can edit them properly. Now, with all that said, this has been the first tutorial I've posted in quite a while, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I plan on making more different Photoshop, Lightroom, video tutorials, the whole bit, so subscribe for when those come out if you haven't already. Hit the bell to be notified for all future videos. Work hard, rest often, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.